everyone. Welcome to Sonya Magazine. This is the first episode back. Went on a little hiatus there. So lost my brother in February, so I took some time off. But I'm back, and I have a gorgeous man here by the name of Cory Alexander. No, Cory who?
Yeah, Alexander Haywood. You pretty much
Cory
read that.
Alexander
That's
Haywood.
the full name, right?
That's his full name.
It's full name.
That's it.
Yeah.
So Cory Alexander Haywood.
Yes, thank you for having me.
He is so nice to come down here and sit with us today, and I think he's absolutely interesting, brilliant, and has a lot to share with the people, and we're going to get started. Right. Cory, go ahead and state your full name again.
Cory Alexander Haywood is my full name, yeah.
All right. Now, I saw you. We're Facebook friends.
Yes.
That's how we met. And I reached out. I saw one of your posts, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I saw a couple of them, actually.
Right.
And I remember writing to you and saying, hey, can I get you on my show? Yeah. And you were so gracious. And so you're like, yeah, okay, I'll come on. I was like, cool. So we're here now. Yes. And, you know, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, for instance?
I'm from Inglewood, California.
Born and raised?
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? Born in Long Beach, really. I spent a lot of, I would say, my youth in Long Beach, and then I was, I would say, moved to Inglewood with my mother. I spent a lot of my high school years there.
Oh, nice.
So I claim Long Beach, but I was also spent some time in Inglewood as well. So I claim both cities.
Okay, very good. All right. So now, what do you do? I understand you do some writing.
Yes. So I've been a writer, and it's a newspaper called Our Weekly. I've been writing for them since 2008, and it's based in Inglewood, actually. It's predominantly black publication, and we cover news stories that surround issues, of course, like race, obviously, politics, and others. And all of it's based, again, in Inglewood. So we cover local stories. We also try to cover issues that, again, are related to the black experience and black culture.
Okay.
And what we try to do is really educate our readers and give them information that they can use, obviously, to apply to their lives, and so they can just keep their fingers on the pulse of what's going on in our community. That's what we try to do. And
has that had a positive impact on the community? Do you find that readers are actually, you know, really listening to some of those ideals and values?
Yeah, you know, we have strong roots, very, very deep roots in the community. And again, with the thing is, we're living in an industry now, or an era now, where newspapers are becoming really extinct.
Correct.
Right? And so what we've managed to do by going digital as well is really connect with our readers, and they trust that we'll deliver news, you know, from an unbiased and objective point of view. And they,
I see.
We have a circulation of about, I'd say, 100,000 throughout, again, the city of Inglewood, Los Angeles, and the surrounding areas. Okay. And I'm very proud to say that I've had a hand in developing again, the connection that we have with the city.
Wonderful. Yeah. That is really good. Okay, so tell me a little, let's jump right into, you know, who you are as far as an American, and some of your beliefs and things that are happening today that you know, seems to be rapidly, you know, going on.
Yeah, well, you know, I, as an African American male, I try to look at the world through a prism of objectivity. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of people of color, I don't want to say black people are a monolith because we're not. But it's expected as a black man that I subscribe to certain beliefs, certain philosophies. And what I've tried to do is think for myself, right? Growing up in the inner city, I've witnessed a lot of dysfunction, not only from my own people, but from, you know, other entities. For example, with the Breonna Taylor situation, now causing, you know, a lot of chaos and anger throughout the country. You know, I've witnessed, you know, issues like police brutality, for example, firsthand. Right? It's happened to me. It's happened to friends and family, and so I am perfectly aware of the issues that affect African Americans disproportionately, but I try not to allow those issues, excuse me, to influence or color my impression of society as a whole. And I try to look at everyone as, again, we live in America, we're all Americans, and so I try to look at things from that perspective, while also, again, sympathizing with sort of the grievances that people of color experience on a daily basis. So I try to be as fair as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you suffered brutality at the hands of police. but you're still here. So
yeah.
what happened?
I would say, I would call it, let me downgrade it a bit, more
Okay,
like
okay.
harassment, I would
Okay,
say.
okay.
Certainly racial profiling. It happened to me recently in Manhattan Beach. I was driving and I was pulled over, had a passenger, and according to the police, my tags weren't properly displayed. I really don't know what that means because they're current, but so they pulled me over and they had to get out of the car. And they searched my car for weapons and drugs. Now, I don't know what the correlation is between, tags and drugs, but the search to me was unwarranted and obviously unlawful. But the reason why I'm alive and talking to you today is because I obeyed the officers,
Okay.
right? And I showed them respect. I think that the primary objective, the goal of any person, particularly a black male in this country, is to survive the encounter, right? And so I've seen so many videos of people jawing at police, disrespecting police, right? And so the irreverence that we are showing, to me, only escalates. It only intensifies these confrontations. And I think that if, when we're stopped, when we're pulled over, whether we think it's right or wrong, right, the objective should always be to survive the encounter. And I think the primary way to do that is by showing respect and deference to the police.
Okay.
But of course, if I say that, there are many people who would call me, a sellout, a coon, and Uncle Tom.
Right.
These words and labels that are thrown out there, black people who try again to think for themselves.
Right.
But I have a healthy respect for police and for authority.
Right.
But I also again sympathize with people who have been victims to racial profiling and other forces of racism that I think continue to eat at the fabric of our society. So I see it from both points of view.
Okay, and on that, why do you feel that racial profiling is so prevalent in the black community? So when they see a black man driving down the street, what do you think goes through their mind immediately? Are they saying, "Oh yeah, that we got to pull him over"? Are they assuming? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are they assuming a stereotype that they have to follow a certain protocol, or are they basing it on what maybe even the media tells them? Or I'm not trying to defend them by any means, because there are good cops,
Right.
there are smart cops, and
Absolutely.
there's people that have average thought and people that are scared. We understand that too. So I'm just kind of wondering, where do you feel that type of profiling comes from? Based on a stereotype, based on just their own?
Right. Well, it's twofold. If I'm being perfectly honest, in many cases, when I say we, I mean African American people, are our own worst enemy. And quite often we demonstrate erratic and violent and, quite frankly, unacceptable behavior. And I think what happens is when police watch these behaviors, it colors their impression of who we are, right? The labels that we often, what we've been trying to break now, eliminate for years, right? Where black men in particular, are called aggressive or violent or criminal. Although I don't subscribe to any of that, I have witnessed behavior that would indicate that many of us are indeed those things. And so if you're a police officer watching this on a daily basis, I'm sure it influences how you might view African American men particularly, and how you may interact with us as well. And I also think that, a lot of police officers, prior to being given a badge and a gun, I don't know how much contact they have with people of color. And so what I've noticed, or observed rather, through my interactions with non-blacks, is that their impression of us often is colored by what they see on TV, what they read in magazines, what they see in movies, which is often
Exactly.
inaccurate and extremely exaggerated.
Exactly.
And so as a result, officers patrol and police communities of color with this inherent bias, right? That's not always factual, it's manufactured, it's influenced, it's sort of engineered, by the media, by Hollywood. And so what I feel like is that police, before they go into our communities, they really need to get an understanding, right? A real understanding of who we are, and hopefully that will allow them, again, to interact with us on a more professional level, on a level that, again, that would produce peace, right? And I would say fairness, rather than chaos and dysfunction and despair.
I kind of think too, if the media was actually truthful and unbiased, I think they would show other things where people of other races experience the same type of thing. I can tell you, I know someone that when he was 17, pretty much just got his license. He's white male,
Right.
and he was driving down a steep hill, complete no record, never had any problems with the law or anything like that. And he was apparently his car picked up speed. By the time they pulled him over, they had guns drawn on him.
Right.
He had guns in his face. He couldn't believe it. He was terrified, the whole bit.
Right.
We don't hear those stories.
No, we
They
don't.
don't hear the story
Right.
of a Hispanic kid that they identified as white. He was shot and killed coming out of the 7-Eleven right around the corner from my house. And, he tussled with the officer. He was trying to grab at his gun or whatever, and he got shot and killed. And they don't address another a friend that I know that happens to be of Asian descent, and he was also harassed, in Long Beach,
Right.
and guns drawn. They had pulled him out of his car. If they would kind of share those unbiased things, then maybe they could concentrate more on how to educate police officers, or encourage other ways of handling, and not be so concentrated on profiling one race, or also people saying, hey, how do we come together and work together with police officers? We're not all this way. How do we get away from the stereotype, that thing? But the media, to me, does have a lot to do with it. Also, our own personal actions has a great deal. And the people that I spoke of, with the exception of the person I didn't know and they killed him, the two are alive. They didn't, they didn't like what was happening, but they obeyed. And it's like, this isn't right, but hey, I want to, I'm going to be respectful.
Right.
And they're alive today.
Exactly.
So, so now, being on that note, what do you feel? Let's just jump right into BLM, Antifa, burning down our neighborhoods and all that good stuff.
It's silly.
Right.
All of it. At the core, I think that the Black Lives Matter, the movement itself, originally was necessary, just to draw more awareness to, again, the challenges and the frustrations that African American people experience on a daily basis, right? That I totally identify with as a black man. However, the movement has been, co-opted and pretty much hijacked by these really obscure, like nebulous organizations. Antifa obviously being one of them, and so it's devolved, right, into this chaotic sort of mess, right? And we've seen riots, we've seen protests where people have indiscriminately caused harm to others, right? Damage to property, public and private. And I think that looking at it now compared to what it was supposed to be back when it started, and this is a while back, I think it originated when Trayvon Martin was shot and killed, I believe, right? By George Zimmerman. If you look at it, what it was supposed to be, right? Originally compared to what it is now, all I see now really is just a bunch of honestly bored people looking for something to do, right? Opportunists taking advantage of sort of the confusion and the chaos and the anger, right, that is swirling in our country right now, and I don't agree with any of it at all.
Right.
Quite frankly, I think that cooler heads need to prevail. I don't know, I can't identify leadership at all within the organization. I have no idea what their objective is now. I don't know if they have a 10-point platform, a plan. I don't know what direction they're headed in, what purpose they have. To me, it's a lost cause, and I don't support it at all, period.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's really disturbing to see so many people that are white that have also become a part of this in the name of Black lives.
Right.
But yet they're not burning down their communities.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, they're not
No.
throwing bricks through their small businesses, things like that. I know they're trying to branch out a little bit and test certain areas, but really primarily it's where? In the inner cities.
Absolutely.
And I just can't understand how Black people cannot see that and understand that, hey, these people are, this is subterfuge here.
Right.
I call it KKK 2.0. It seems like BLM / KKK, Antifa KKK. I see it no different. I really don't.
Right.
And it's right along the same line, the party lines and actions that the KKK used. They instilled fear. They like to burn crosses. We know that in people's yards, and then now these people are using fire to burn down their communities.
Exactly. And if black lives matter, then black businesses should matter as well.
Absolutely.
And
black officers.
Black officers. These
Amen.
businesses have perished, right?
Right.
Mom and pop stores, black-owned small businesses,
Yeah.
unfortunately, have fallen through the cracks.
Exactly.
And we've seen it. It's like, look, well, if you care about black lives, then you should be trying to preserve, right, the life's work of your own people. And so tearing down your own community certainly isn't the way. It's counterproductive. And I do feel like these organizations are primarily responsible really for stoking the fire. And so they need to be held accountable as well. Absolutely.
Amen. Amen to that. We're going to go to a quick break, everyone. We have Cory Haywood here, Cory Alexander Haywood. So I like saying his whole entire name. You're brilliant, and I'm so glad you're here. We'll be back in 2 and 2. My name is Sonya Green, single mom of 5, successful business owner, and conservative Republican, and I'm running for city council. I'm running because our children deserve to be in the classroom. Our police officers need our support, and we need to stop Gavin Newsom. I'm running for city council because Sacramento won't get past me in their attempts to take your freedom. I ask for your vote. Welcome back to Sonya Magazine. I have Cory Alexander Haywood here, and we are going to further discuss about BLM. And where we left off was we understand that this whole organization been hijacked and it's chaotic and has no rhyme or reason. So what kind of message do we get out there to our youth that are absolutely stubborn, completely blinded by this hate that now they feel like, white people are privileged, we're not.
Right.
Me personally, I've never seen that. I've never seen a white privileged person. Now, I can tell you there's economic different backgrounds, but they still have the same opportunities to fail.
Right.
They have the same opportunities to succeed, just like someone that came from an economic background that wasn't as powerful, prominent, or strong. They have the same opportunities to succeed and the same opportunities to fail. So how do we get to these people that are supporting BLM, Antifa indirectly in the name of, equality for blacks, again, while they're burning down our neighborhoods?
Right. I would encourage them first is to do your research, right? You're being manipulated by the media, left-wing media primarily. And I think the manipulations that are taking place are certainly causing young people, impressionable young people, to behave indiscriminately and recklessly. On top of that, right? Check your facts.
Yeah.
Do the research. Instead of believing what you hear and what you see on TV, look into it yourself so that you're fully educated and fully aware of what's going on.
Exactly.
I've seen so many young people, and it's scary because, I watch these knee-jerk reactions to police killings or police shootings or the incidents where black people are allegedly harmed or harassed by police. In the first reaction, their instinct, right, is to explode, and to riot or to point their fingers at, police or that our justice system or our government. Really, instead of again doing the research. And I think also it's important that as black people, we do some introspection. We look in the mirror and we try to assess and identify our own flaws and shortcomings. What are we doing to make these problems worse, and how can we change our behavior to make these problems go away? I think that also needs to happen as well. And as far as the young generation is concerned, I think that, for example, Candace Owens, I love Candace Owens. I agree with,
Me too,
with a
Candace.
lot that she says, and there are other black conservative voices that have emerged who I also support. But I think the disconnect is that, and I've spoken to a lot of young black people, and what they have said is that when they watch Candace Owens, they don't believe that she has their interests at heart. They believe that she's totally disconnected from black culture and the black community. It's hard for them to identify with her. And so when she speaks, even if what she's saying is true and factual, it goes in one ear and out the other because they view her as the enemy, as really a plant, right, for white supremacist or white racist. And so the disconnect, right, is the main issue. And I think if people like her perhaps can show more concern and more empathy, not just sympathy, but empathy to the Black condition and to the challenges that we face, then perhaps people like her will be more accepted and really perceived as someone, who, young Black people can trust, right? And look to, for guidance, for, support, for leadership. Right? I think these are some of the things that need to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you think Malcolm X identified with the Black community? Do you think that he, in dealing with the youth, because it seems like, although it's not to this level of anxiety
Right.
and chaos, and me understanding even from my parents, from even as a little girl, even traveling back to Georgia, that's where my family was from. I was born here, native California, catching the waves immediately. Just
Right,
kidding.
yeah.
But they, Black people that I always knew of and was around, they're really pleasant people, very caring, very loving, very supportive of one another.
Right.
They didn't tear down each other. There wasn't any disrespect. They weren't calling girls or young girls, encouraging them to dance in a certain way.
Right.
They were more church-going type families.
Right.
They were typically more nuclear families. And they really embraced the community. I remember my aunts, I walking down the street with my aunts, and the gentleman would walk by and tip their hat to her, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if somehow within the families too, there's a disconnect of self-responsibility. I mean, I always told my kids growing up, it's easy to be just chaotic. It's easy to have no self-respect. It's easy to just be out there and do and say and be vulgar and everything. But it takes effort to be of good standard.
Absolutely.
And it takes effort to be somebody that nobody can mark or limit.
Right.
And that effort, actually, you're born with, and that innate ability, because I believe that God gave us life for a reason. And when you don't capture some of those blessings that He's given us and understand them, they go and they leave.
And I don't mean to regurgitate certain talking points. At this point, they've become sort of colloquial in nature, but the victimhood mentality that I often hear expressed by, again, Candace Owens, it's to me, it's like a cancer. It's contagious. We have now a lot of young people who view themselves as victims
Correct.
of a corrupt system, right, of systemic oppression, right, and they view these forces of racism as sort of dark clouds hanging over them, right,
Correct.
suppressing their ability to succeed. That needs to be changed because
Right.
if you go back, right, 50, 60 years ago, right, the early 20th century, for example, throughout the early 1900s, where we had Black communities thriving, racism was at its peak, at its
That's right.
height,
That's right.
right? There were laws put in place literally to suppress Black progress, and
Absolutely.
somehow these families and these communities thrived anyway. In my opinion, there's no better time to be Black than right now.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
And so there's no excuse for anyone, young or old, right, African American, to say, well, I can't be whatever I want to be
No.
because of this or that. No, you can be, right? The idea is you need to look in the mirror and know it, right?
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to Malcolm X and during
Right.
his era, what do you think? I didn't know him obviously, but reading some things, do you think that he dealt with some of the way these people think today, and he was educated? Like he even flat out said, white liberals are the most dangerous beings to the Black community, and yet. Even in the entertainment industry, watching them get up on stage and, and we're fighting for, our rights to be da-da-da, but we all know the entertainment industry is left-leaning.
Oh, absolutely.
So now you're crying out to the world saying that you're being treated fairly, and you go back and you hang with these same people and you go vote for the same people that you are saying that is treating you unfairly.
Right.
I don't understand how and where that, I call it the Jim Jones Project all over again, and they're just able to get captured by their oppressors. And it's that Stockholm type syndrome.
We need an awakening. It's the funny thing. I think, and this is what really gets my blood boiling, is that I have encountered blatantly racist white people, but at least they're open with their racism, right?
Yeah.
I can identify them instantly.
Right.
Malcolm X, and I'm paraphrasing, I hope not to get this wrong, but he said, he mentioned the difference between sort of a fox, I believe, and a wolf. And so wolves are obviously, readily sort of identifiable, right? Because they're not afraid, nor are they covert with their racism. You know what I'm saying?
You know what their intent is.
You know exactly what their intentions are, right? Fox is a little different.
Yes.
And quite often, they are cunning, they're swift.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you can't really tell. I compare liberals to that in the sense that, for one, I think that they really don't think we're very smart, black people. And I'm talking about, white liberals, Democrats, those who are at the top, in that sort of party. I feel like when they look at us, they see people who need to be sort of coddled and babied, right? And I don't agree with that at all, right? That to me is the epitome of racism. When you look at a group of people and think, well, they don't have the ability or the capability not only to survive and provide for themselves, but to thrive. They need us for their survival. That's how they feel. That to me is extremely offensive.
Very much so.
And so that's what I've witnessed, over the years, particularly as I've gotten older, is that even the programs that are in place, obviously the government assistance programs that are in place that Democrats constantly push for, perpetuate, they're all in place to enable, African American people. And essentially that cripples us, from achieving our full economic and social potential, It keeps us at a level that almost requires us to depend on them. And that's really their goal. And so to me, that's something that really we need to focus on changing. I don't really care about the white racist, in some podunk town, in the South somewhere. I don't care about, because he doesn't really affect me.
No.
His energy doesn't affect me whatsoever. But I can say that as a black man, watching my people sort of wallow, languish in this state of economic and social sort of, I would say, inferiority. Again, that's encouraged by the Democratic Party. That to me is a problem. And so as a voice, in my own community, I have dedicated, myself and my resources to exposing that BS, is what I'm going to call it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it starts even with the education, or affirmative action, things like that. Why is it that you think that, we've had black scientists, we've had doctors, we have inventors, all these things, and then all of a sudden you tell a black community they need special help in their education, and they need a different language because they can't speak English, so we're going to say Ebonics. And it's all coming from the same party that's telling you the other party's racist.
Exactly.
And that's...
Think about this when they say that our schools, that when you think of poor education in the black community, I agree that teachers should be paid more so that they're more interested in teaching their students, and that many schools in the inner city, they lack a lot of things, right? At the same time, though, well, let's go back once again to the 1900s, post-slavery, where I'm sure that schools were not in tip-top shape in black communities, communities of color.
That's right.
Where there were resources were lacking, where curriculum was probably lacking as well. These schools were not, again, high-performing schools. You have black people still recovering from slavery, many of them not even knowing how to read. How is it possible that we're looking at an era that produced some of the best and brightest minds in American history?
That's right. That is right.
How did they manage to reach these levels, of academic achievement, of social and economic achievement back then, when again racism was at its peak, and when the resources were far less abundant than they are now? And we look, almost 100 years later, and somehow black people are complaining that we don't have enough to succeed. We don't have enough to teach our children. Yes, we do. We have more than what our ancestors had. How can you explain that? You can't.
Exactly.
So I just don't buy into it. I'm sorry.
Right.
I can't.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so now with the education too, and teachers like in LA, I heard that they didn't want to come back unless they were able to teach socialism economics.
Okay.
So you have also a group of teachers that have been rooted up in this communist way of thinking, and now they're teaching this to our children. And I think they prey on the black community. They start there, then they incite all of this things that are going on. They have the anger rise up, and you have chaos. So now they're pushing this agenda to strip their pride away from the country that offers them everything. It's like you've got this big gold mine there, and they turn you around. They say, "No, don't look back there. You can't have any of that stuff. You need to come over here, and we're going to teach you that this country's horrible. They're racist. They're this, and that. And don't leave. Stay here, and we'll help you." You know, it's like, whoa. So, you know, I wish also the communities would come together and demand that these curriculums change. They're starting to teach, you know, sex to our kindergartners. You know, the primary school grades. That's going to be taught to our black kids too.
Of course.
You know, and then they're going to say, "Oh yeah, you know, abortion's the way to go." As you know, and Candace Owen was one of the ones that definitely brought that out and highlighted it. How many, you know, abortions? So they have found the same party that's saying, you know, another party is against you. They've proven in every way that they are our number one enemy.
Right.
And I just want to say to the black community out there, that you have an innate gift, an innate ability to succeed. Absolutely. Because you know, you're a gift from God, and we have to remove hate. God is not of hate. God is of love. So when you invite hate in, you are removing the opportunities God can bless you with. And it's important for you to understand, I don't care how old you are. You could be 7, 8, 9. You have the power and the gift to pray to God. Pray for your family. Pray for your enemies, because you're being attacked. Our children are being attacked. I always say, you know, with the leftist leaning, and they're saying, "Oh, toxic men." Listen, honey, men are fabulous, okay? And they need to be men. They are our protectors. Women, we're good. We're good helpmates, you know, and that's how we should always understand it. And it's biblically written, but. Going on to say that man was created first, as it says in the Bible, and I believe the Bible. What does Satan want to take out? The man. Right. Who is most precious to God? Children.
Yes.
And that's who they are attacking. So people, please wake up and understand that it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. I'll tap into one thing. Now we have all this chaos. They're trying to do a racially divide here. Right. I won't mention the numerous athletes and entertainers that are jumping on this bandwagon, although they're millionaires. Right. But then now they're going to tell our kids, "You kneel and you don't respect this country." But they were standing, honey, and they were respecting it, honey, all the way to their multi-million-dollar mansions. And they're going to tell you, you can't do that. But in other countries where they don't have a diversity of race, they used religion. They used religion to part people, okay? They used, in other countries where it was dominant by, you know, they felt there was Soviet victimhood. They used that platform. So this is a strategy to divide, conquer, and where they can have ultimate control. Absolutely. That we have to be careful of. And with that, Cory, Alexander Haywood, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. I have a gift for you, okay? RJ, come on out here and bring this wonderful gift that we've been drinking out of. There's your own Sonya magazine cup. Enjoy.
Absolutely. I'll be having coffee in this tomorrow morning.
Yes,
Wonderful.
yes.
Yeah,
thank you so much for being on my show today. I am going to have you back, and hopefully we can work together in the future. This is going to be great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you so much.